So my background is a bit unusual. I guess the story really starts about 10 years ago. I completed teacher training, a PGCE, in 2010, and a number of things happened over the period 2010 to 2015 that were quite influential on my teaching career. So one of the things that I did was to get a job working in a college that focused on exam technique and exam preparation for students. And that was a great area to try out various ideas I had in terms of the teaching of language skills for essay writing and study skills. At about the same time, I also had work for one of the national exam boards as an exam marker. And I also approached the National Lottery with a project aimed at teaching study skills. And that project ultimately received a National Lottery grant, and that grant allowed me to produce various books that were used in that project to teach things like essay writing, study skills, and to provide various colourful resources and visual approaches to learning. And it was a great place to bring together my interest in psychology, education, language learning, and try out different things and different approaches to learning within a classroom context. Okay, so course structure and course content. Well, I could speak to you at length about that, but I will just summarise it by saying what I like to do is that at some point in a course that I teach students, I like them to have had exposure to at least the following. So I like them to have had at least exposure to some techniques for essay writing, of which there are 5 sections, including paragraphs, planning, keywords, and introductions. I like them as well to have had some guidance about study skills, for example, organising folders, cue cards, memory techniques. And I like students to have had some introduction to how they might organise essay revision notes by colour, which is consistent with the guides. And so what I like to do is to embed that around other lesson content so that it supports and enriches other lesson information and allows students to go a little bit further than might otherwise happen by putting that around what else they're learning. So I find that way, if they're learning psychology with me, they're in a great place to write extended answers. Or alternatively, if they're learning English for academic purposes with me, they also are quite well informed about what psychology might recommend in terms of getting the most out of their lessons, developing good revision habits, developing good study habits. You'll see below on the screen is some zoom ins, as it were, of what I'm about to show you in front of this camera. So what there are is pre-made books. These are the how to do it, and these are the exercises. And within the exercises and the how-to books, you will find that there's a commonality. So you'll find there's a very visual approach, there's a memory word, and then you'll find there are companion exercises. Those can be presented in a variety of ways. So they can be presented on something like 5HP, you can turn them into quizzes. There are pre-made quizzes in here. There are pre-made exercises. There are a range of templates that are colour coordinated. And they can be put in a variety of situations. So it doesn't really matter whether you put that into a quiz or whether you put that into a Padlet or whether you do some other reworking of it, because the techniques have already been tried out in various settings. And if you want to, you can simply share them as a Word document. And that's one way that they've been done in the past, because that promotes collaboration between students. So it's relatively straightforward for a student to work on a file together, actually using quite low-level technology, as long as they can then access it together. And in fact, grids based on a how-to sheet supported by videos is actually quite a good way of doing it, because actually it's very accessible, especially for the harder tasks of extended writing and collaboration with extended writing across different time zones potentially. So by having grids and by having memory words, it's actually quite straightforward to share information and to share exercises in a variety of formats.